All right, everyone, what's our word up? God can change me. That's right. And now we're going to go into our missionary story. So, who can tell me what's a missionary? Yes. That's right. It's someone who tells others about God, just like Miss Beth Potter. But our missionary for this club, her name is Lottie Moon. And today we're going to learn the first part of her story. Are you ready? Well, this is how it starts. It all begins on April Fool's. Lottie Moon laughed to herself as she stripped her bed, rolled up the sheets, and tucked them under her arm. Her roommate, Carrie Ann, was fast asleep and didn't even move as Lottie escaped the dark room. Only a little bit of daylight was showing in the sky. Lottie Moon was 14 years old and very, very tiny, only about 4 feet and 3 inches tall. But she knew how to think big, and this April Fool's Day she was planning a trick that would amaze her entire school. Lottie had been at the Hollins Institute boarding school for girls ever since her father died, and she didn't have a moment's freedom there. There was a huge bell that rang for meals, classes, and twice a day for chapel. The first bell rang at 6 a.m. in the morning. Well, not today, Lottie thought. She lifted a key from a nail by the attic door and unlocked it. She climbed up 2 ladders all the way to the tower where the bell rang. Then Lottie took her sheets and wrapped them around the clapper of the bell. Then she climbed back down the ladders and returned to her room. Lottie giggled and waited for 6 a.m., and there was no bell. It was 7 a.m. before the bell finally clanged. "We're all an hour late," she told Carrie Ann. Meals and classes were all mixed up that day, and chapel was canceled. Lottie returned to her room to change her clothes for a late dinner that evening. Carrie Ann was waiting for her. "The principal knows that it's you," she said. "Everybody thought of you first thing, and you're the only one without sheets on your bed." "It was worth it to get out of chapel," Lottie replied. "I'm bored with church. I'm not the least bit interested in Jesus," she said. After Lottie graduated from Hollins Institute, she spent time at her home near Charlottesville, Virginia. In September, she went on to another girls' school to get more education. She loved to read and study. Her grades were great, and she already knew 4 foreign languages. One day at dinner, a new girl asked, "Hi, what's your name?" She said, "Lottie D. Moon." "What's the D stand for?" "Devil," Lottie snapped, "because I'm not a least bit religious, and don't expect to see me in church. I have better things to do." And she never did tell her middle name. Well, do you think God could use someone like Lottie? Let's find out. So Lottie continued to play practical jokes at her school and even made fun of the pastor at the church across the road. One Sunday, she went to church just to listen for something to make fun of. But she was surprised that afternoon. The sermon was interesting, and it made sense. All that night, she thought about the things that she had heard. Lottie was wealthy, and she was educated. Did she really need God? Did she need to turn to Him? Suddenly, that was exactly what she wanted to do. The next morning, Lottie got up early and went to a sunrise prayer meeting that some of the students attended. What she didn't know was that they were praying for her. "Here's Lottie at the prayer meeting." "Oh," gasped one girl when she arrived. "Why, here's Lottie Moon herself in person. We were praying for you, Lottie, but we never dreamed you'd walk right in." And for once, Lottie didn't answer with a snark remark. She sat quietly and she listened. Then she went to the evening church service. When the pastor invited people to receive Jesus, Lottie went forward and knelt to pray. She told God that she had sinned. She told Him that she believed that Jesus died for her sins and rose again, and she asked Jesus to be her Savior. God forgave her, and she became a brand new person inside. After Lottie received Jesus as her Savior, God changed her in many, many ways. She still had a bold personality, and she was still one of the smartest, most educated young ladies in her part of the country. But she didn't play practical jokes anymore. Her voice became gentle, and she was kind to others. She began thinking about what God wanted her to do, rather than what she wanted to do. Little did she know what big plans God had for her. Are you guys ready to find out? Let's see. Well, one evening, Lottie went to a meeting where the pastor begged people to go and be missionaries to other countries, and he quoted Matthew 9:37-38. It says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore, beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." Lottie prayed loud and clear. She said, "Lord, please send workers." And then she heard, You should go." Lottie opened her eyes and looked around to see who had spoken. Or had the words been spoken silently to her heart? "Me, Lord?" she prayed. China seemed to ring in her ears. God had plans for Lottie. She wasn't perfect, but God could change her into the kind of person that he needed her to be. He could help her to become more and more like Jesus and could give her the strength to do anything that he asked. Lottie prayed all afternoon and later told her family, "My call from God to go to the mission field was as clear as the ringing of a bell." First, she taught school for 7 years in Kentucky and in Georgia. God kept working in her heart, and finally, when she was 32 years old, Lottie boarded a big ship headed for China. She traveled for 30 days and arrived in Tengshao, North China. She lived in a roomy house called Little Crossroads. The house was named that because it stood at the place where two roads met. She began studying Mandarin, the Chinese language, and she could talk to the people in their own language. Even though she was learning that language, she was not welcomed by the people when she first arrived. They were afraid of her, and they called her a foreign devil and would even spit at her. One time she was even threatened by men carrying clubs. They yelled in the streets saying, "Kill, kill!" In the streets, people crowded her and they almost crushed her to death. They would grab her and ask her embarrassing questions. And in her letters home, Lottie would write, "The people saw me eating small pickled onions and said I ate the eyeballs of children. They saw me drinking raspberry juice and said it was the blood of all the kids I'd kidnapped." Lottie wanted so much to tell these people about the good news of Jesus. And so she prayed, "Lord, how can I help them to trust me?" Suddenly, an idea popped into her head. What was her idea? Well, you'll have to come back tomorrow to find out, all right? Everyone, what's our word up for today? God can change me. All right.